Hello, welcome everybody. We are live for our second History Dose Q&A. We got Joe here. Remember,
Hey everyone.
We've managed to get the entire History Dose team here to sit down, all two of us.
Unionized.
Yeah. As I said in the title there, it will actually be, we're going to be doing a live Q&A, and then I'm also going to be answering some questions and talking a little bit about the group trip that we want to plan for 2024. You might have seen that in the community posts. I'm going to give like a minute or so just for people to trickle in. So before I jump right into that and just talk a little bit about the trip, let's get to some of these questions. We'll do like a little bit of rapid fire for the people who came to class on time. Okay, so we got SF9. Will you make another Mongol video? And what historical figures are you currently reading about? You guys are great. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to obviously do another Mongol video. We're going to pick up with the Mongol versus Mamluks. And I think that'll probably be later in the summer. But yeah, whenever we go back to the Mongols, it'll be where we left off with the Mongol Baghdad one. Historical figures, that's classified. I can't tell you what I'm researching right now. But we will just wait a couple minutes. Once I start the talking a little bit about the trip, I have a slide that's a teaser for the next video, which should be out in a little over a week. And it's not going to spoil anything, but every time I post like a really vague painting, you guys, there's always like one or two people that can actually sniff out what the next topic is going to be or get very close. I remember the interior of the walls of Kiev from the Mongol versus Kievan Rus one. Somebody got that and they were able to like tell it was from this period or something, and it was like, that is just insane.
Or even the Gupta Empire. Some people were caught on to this specific art style for that empire and were able to figure out what time period it was.
Yeah, some of you guys are disgustingly knowledgeable at just picking out exactly what we've depicted.
History geeks.
So let me do a couple more, and then we'll jump into talking a little bit about the trip, and we'll get to that sneak peek for the next episode. Any plans or intentions for another episode covering any Irish history? Yeah, actually, rather than go to Yellowstone, we ended up going to Yellowstone. If you saw some of those pictures in the community posts or on the Instagram. But the other thing we were considering was going to Ireland. Our last name is Feely. We're about a quarter Irish. So yeah, we're not going to neglect that. We're going to return to that at some point. Can y'all do a video about the Aztecs from I Like Cheese? Likes cheese and the Aztecs. Yeah, we were just talking with somebody about that. Somebody from Mexico who wanted us to cover the Aztecs. So at some point, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for some of Joe's art for that. Imagine part of the cool thing for us is
fun to make.
Yeah, like being able to see those like temples, pyramids, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and just populate it full of people and try to get it down to the detail would be really fun. Abyss asks a question about Roman Empire's struggle with groups in Gaul and Germania. Yeah, I don't want to elaborate too much because you're getting very close to what's coming up next. Okay, so we got a bunch of people jumping in now. This is awesome. Somebody asking if we're twins. No, we're not twins. We're like 15 months or 16 months apart or something.
Yeah, but our mother would constantly dress us up the exact same way until we were like 12 years old, when we realized that we had autonomy over what we could wear.
Yeah,
I think it was a way to just keep track of us. Like if Chris went missing or something, she could just say, "Oh, if you see a boy, it looks just like Joe," or something, or vice versa.
Yeah, we were designed to look like twins, but we weren't. Thank you for the super chat. Can you ever do a video about the Dutch East India Company? Yes, I really want to do one about them. I took a class that was just called Oceans in college, and you wouldn't think it's that interesting. It's just called like History of the Oceans or something like that. But a lot of it just dealt with like how humans connected via the ocean, and the Dutch East India Company is just one of those things. The more you learn about them, the more it blows your mind how expansive and consequential they were in human history. Okay, so feel free to just keep putting stuff in the chat, different questions and stuff. I'll get to it as we're going along. I want to jump into this tiny little, so a couple slides that I have that will talk a little bit about that trip that we're planning for 2024. There's my nice title page. History Does Q&A number 2 with Chris and Joe. Okay, so the overview of what I'm just going to talk about here is just I'll touch on the group trip a little bit. So it'll be planned for sometime in 2024, depending on some of your availability. I'll talk a little bit about like the basics of that. And then if you saw in the community post a couple days ago, I put out a survey for where people wanted to go in a group trip. And so we have some interesting results so far. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about those. Caleb Ode says we have similar noses. I can see the resemblance. Okay.
Must be brothers.
And then I'll open it up to like any questions you guys have about the trip. We don't know that much right now, but I'll try to answer as best as I can. And then we'll do like an ask me anything or ask anything, AUA, ask us anything. So yeah, so here we go. This is choose your own adventure. This is a little bit of information about the trip. Oops.
Was that Uncharted 4 for the background for that?
Yeah, that was something from Uncharted
nice.
4. That's I ripped that off doing that.
Yeah, copyright strike.
I know. We are done. Okay. Let me try to, it wasn't loading the full presentation, so let me get that up. I think I got to re-add it because it only had like 2 slides, and that would have been a terrible presentation. But yeah, keep the questions coming. We'll get to them. Okay, so this should be the full presentation, including the sneak peek to what we're going to talk about. Okay, all right, here we go. So, but first, before I talk about the trip at all, here's the teaser for the next video. I'll put it on screen for a little bit. YouTube has granted you the power to pause too if you didn't think that I held it on long enough, but keep it live. I don't know if there's any guesses, if you guys want to put it in the chat, what you think we're looking at here. But this is what the next video will be. This is a painting from the next video. Joe finished up earlier today, I think.
Yeah. Obviously Aztec architecture you can see here. A lot of time and detail went into. Yeah.
He's being sarcastic, guys. Somebody's asking for the sack of Rome by Alaric. We did do that.
Would love to revisit that time period, though.
Someone's putting $500 on Rome. That person's going to make some money.
Oh, geez.
Okay. So let me go back to actually presentation. So I want to jump to the next slide. So yeah, I did already go over the overview, but so it's almost like a choose your own adventure type thing, because you guys are going to have input on where we're going to go if you want to join us. So like I said, it's going to be sometime in 2024. It'll be history themed, but that doesn't need to be like the entire trip. There's going to be dinners, different itineraries and stuff. So how this works is it's through a company called TrovaTrip. You might have heard of them if you follow another history YouTube channel, Vlogging Through History. Chris from Vlogging Through History has set up a few trips with them, and has those on the horizon for him. His sold out pretty immediately, so there's a lot of enthusiasm for that. And I kind of want to let me just take this off screen for a second, and I'll just show you what TrovaTrip basically is. Let me go. So a lot of the trips on TrovaTrip are not history focused. They're content creators who do anything. Some of them are like Instagram models, and you're going to a different state or something like that. I'm not an Instagram model yet, but
I
you can see
kind
some of these are
am.
sold out.
It's mostly my art I post.
Yeah. But you can see, of course, fair warning, it's a multi-day tour. So, there's a price tag involved in there. So it's going to be, you'll see most of these are like $2,000 to $4,000, especially because it looks like we're going to go abroad. Ours will probably be in that price range. So if you have $4,000 in the bank, don't go bankrupt for us. We're not worth it. But the big appeal is not necessarily us, or maybe it is, but the big appeal is that we're going to go see some cool stuff. So what we really need in order to get this off the ground is, if you look at the video description for this, we have a survey. It takes 2 minutes to fill out, just telling us where you want to go. And I do have the survey results right here, actually. But yeah, we have some pretty interesting results. TrovaTrip has like set itineraries for a lot of the places, like a ton of countries. And so we've seen some of the results are like related to our content in some way. We have a lot of votes for Mongolia, because we do Mongols all the time. But yeah, so if you guys can do me a favor, just click on that survey link in the description. There's like an obnoxiously large caps lock survey link in the description. So just click on that. You can fill it out in 2 minutes, and it'll just let us know. If we get 50 people to fill it out, then we can move forward. I think we have like 35 right now. But this is what it looks like so far. So this, I screenshot it when it was 34, but you can see, oops. Yeah, like Turkey is in the lead with 16. I'm a little bit confused. I feel like we haven't done anything specifically like Turkey related, but it could be like Constantinople or like Byzantine related, and we covered a little bit of that. As somebody asked about the Byzantine Empire. But yeah, we did Constantinople a little bit with the Harold Hardrada one. And then you see like Italy's up there. Of course, I think we have a lot of fans of Roman history. And then Mongolia, Egypt. I don't think we've covered Egyptian history, but I would love to go there. And we'd probably make a video about the place.
With Napoleon's campaign in Egypt, but I mean that's
true.
Yeah, that's more modern. I'm guessing people want ancient Egypt.
Yeah. And so yeah, we Egypt would be really cool to go to. Greece, all these places, with these old ruins and stuff like that. It'd be cool to just sort of step into the past. And yeah, we have pretty big variety. We also have Yellowstone in there with like a decent number of votes. I think we biased to the sample by posting those pictures.
Yeah, maybe we'll go back though. Pretty cool place.
Yeah. Okay, so I am going to.
Can you post the link to the survey in the chat? Is that something you can do within your powers?
There we go. Let me just put it in the chat right here. If anybody can fill out the survey, if you're at all like interested in doing this. If you're not, no need to, but it'll take 2 minutes. Trying to get this. Okay. All right. So I'm posting it now. Let me know if you guys see it. You can save it, put it in another tab or something if you just want to keep watching. But yeah, we'll jump right into the Q&A unless you guys have some questions that are specifically about the Trova trip travel thing that we're planning, or even just put it in the chat where you would want to go. Something from Rich Mitch super chat. Thank you for that. Rich Mitch, we hear this all the time from you. Yes. I just know we'll be going back to Chinese history at some point. It was really cool doing the Zheng He one. So I don't know about specific topics really. But yeah, we'll definitely be covering stuff around there. And what you'll notice with a lot of our topics is it's like, for example, like I was interested in covering something like the Greco-Buddhist merging of cultures. And I touched a little bit on that with the Gupta Empire one. So a lot of times, like even if we're not doing that specific topic, it'll get mentioned in some contextual way in like a related subject. So thank you guys for the super chats. Those do help the channel. We have a bunch more for requests for India. We've been getting a lot of those. Yeah, I hope you guys like the Gupta Empire one. That was fun to do. What I wanted to do was show you guys some of the stuff. I can do it in a little bit, but I'll show you some of the research and the art behind the India one because it took so much. I think I mentioned in the last Q&A, but it took so much research and detail to get that stuff right because we have a good idea of a lot of these things, of what like Gupta Empire armor or architecture look like, but we don't have like an amazing concrete idea for a lot of the things. So a lot of it requires like really in-depth research to get it right. Kieran Kavanaugh, do you guys use AI generated art in any of your videos?
No. Fortunately, AI generated art isn't super good at kind of the historical precision. And I think I've noticed some other different history and like informational channels have started using AI generated art. And it just sometimes has weird results where like, Napoleonic era soldier is wearing some weird, almost Civil War Union looking jacket. And we just like Chris has like entire notes and documents about like how precise we need to be. Like for this latest one that we're working on, I won't hint at it too much because we want to keep it kind of in the dark, but like down to what the pattern on the pants of the men, like what they would be wearing and stuff. So it's a little difficult with AI art to get that type of precision.
Yeah, there's the precision, and then I think you lose something because you're not able to dictate the composition of something or the specific colors. It's just like a lot of times it looks very samey. Like the AI art from one channel looks the exact same as the other one, and so
Probably we'll have
you
another
lose sort of like the
speed
human
painting.
element to art in
Yeah,
doing that.
we have a few speed paintings out which kind of show my process sped
Yeah,
up. Obviously, I don't finish these in 5 minutes, but we should probably do like another one for this upcoming video as well.
yeah, it's funny because we get so many comments about it now, and it's like we have been doing this art for years. It wasn't always through the channel, but before Midjourney was a thing or anything like that. So you can see it's basically the same art, probably gotten a little bit better. But yeah, I wanted to show on the topic of art. Wanted to show something. So this is a little bit of like the research process that goes behind it. So these are screenshots of like this live Google document that Joe and I have going for each episode. So I'll just be like a paintings needed document, episode 45, which is the India one. And you can see like I give Joe like a guide. Okay, so for anything that we're showing war, here's like Gupta armor, and it's hyperlinked with like murals of the era that have survived. There's the Ajanta caves, which technically aren't part of Gupta territory, but gives a good idea of what Indian troops would have been wearing at that time. Um, and then some other sculptures that are more or less contemporary to Gupta period. So what can we guess that they would have worn for armor, or what their shields would have looked like? And then for the weapons, you can see, I did a ton of research and just finding these really obscure books on, some of them are like screenshots you'll see from like books that are available on archive.org. I have all the citations in the description, but it's just to give the most informed sense possible in terms of how we portray something. And then the Alcon Huns, which appear later in the thing, we just have like tiny little statuettes and things like that, coins to go off of. But we're going to try to take as much. Like academic opinion into what we're portraying, so that it's as realistic as possible. This was just a little bit funny. One of the last paintings that we have in the India one concerns that last battle, which probably doesn't include troops from the Gupta Empire. It might have, but it's more like regional powers that are coming into conflict with the Alcon Huns. And I was like, I had this idea for a painting. Okay, well, we know at some point that these armies are clashing, and this is how the Huns fought. So I was like, Joe, we'll have like Huns circling them with bows and stuff, and then we'll
Some elephants in
show
the background. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's the composition, and then this is what it ends up being. So
I did a little bit of a
anytime
facelift
soon.
for your drawings.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really cool to do this stuff and to just like put out something really crappy and give it to Joe and just watch it get enhanced 10,000%. Another thing I wanted to show that's sort of related to that, just some of the research, and then I'll get back to the questions. I'm sorry if I'm neglecting those, but just some of the research. So like the armor, flags, weapons, and stuff that you see in our video is like some of it, if we're doing Roman stuff, a lot of times there's a little bit more certainty on what they would have worn, or you can speak with a little bit more authority on like, well, we know this is what this kind of armor looked like. We have less here, but I'm consulting academic works to try to get a good handle on what they could be wearing. Right down to the flag in the Gupta episode. This was like a whole write-up, different paragraphs and hyperlinks on papers about like ancient Indian flags and what were the basic colors that they used and what was the trim on the edge. And so we basically had to guess what we were going to use for the Gupta Empire flag. And so I'm like drawing this symbol right there. We know that the imperial symbol of the Gupta Empire was this thing called the Garuda. So it's like kind of a portly looking bird-like, sometimes portrayed as human, sometimes as a bird, sometimes as a mixture. But you can see it right there. This is a coin of Samudragupta, and it's on the left of him. And then that is, it's typically Vishnu, the god Vishnu is riding the Garuda. So so this is what we came up with, and it's you can see it on the side of the elephant, but it's like even the tiny things that are sort of in shadow like that, we're putting a lot of thought into. So no, we will not be using AI art. But yeah, let me get to some of these questions. Thank you for the super chat, Matt. Love your videos. Musician, and I was curious if you guys tap into music history at some point as far back as Bach, recent as Laurel Canyon. Yeah, we could. I guess I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
But I
That'd
mean,
be an interesting video.
Yeah, and what you guys will see too on the topic of music is we actually, Joe, maybe you can talk a little bit about like the recent videos you've been putting some more of your own music in, and we're going to expect some more of that.
Yeah, so I would say probably the past year or so, every now and then, not only do I find tracks that I can license out or reach out to artists who may be, specializing in some, for instance, Native American instruments for like the Haida episode. Uh, but I sometimes will just compose my own stuff, usually within the editor itself. So it's kind of clunky. So recently I've gotten into kind of virtual instrument work, and I'm trying to recreate some of the sounds that maybe would have been contemporary to the historical period we're working on. We did a little bit of that in the Gupta Empire video, where we tried to look up what the music kind of would have sounded like, or the instruments they would have used pre-Islamic influence. So there's like little notes and stuff, little like woodwinds that may have been more reflective of India in that period. And then with this recent video, I've been doing kind of a bit of research in the different horns, the different, the different horns, the different like woodwinds, maybe the drums that they would be using. And I found some people that kind of helped me out with that too. Some people who actually specialize in that specific culture and the music and the sounds they would have made at that time. So I think the music for this one coming up will probably be pretty immersive, I hope.
Yeah. Let me jump into some more of these questions. We have a bunch from LLLLLL. Ask if we will do World War II. Yeah. Eventually, we try to. You guys probably have taken note. We try to keep it really varied, but a lot of it's just like finding the right topic within there. So something that grabs us and that gets me excited about wanting to dive into that, and then also tell that story. And then there's some element of it where I'm like, probably for Joe too. We're sort of like forecasting what's the vibe that we can bring to this. Like, what ambiance are we going for? What's the art going to look like? So, once we find that topic, we usually sort of head down full steam ahead into that thing. Um, I'm just going through some of these older comments, but keep them coming in. We had somebody make a comment wanting some more videos about mob bosses. Yeah, eventually we'll do some of that. I never know how popular those are on the channel. The Joe Gallo one got pretty big, and that is actually still demonetized. I appealed it even after I censored a part where we show like a body bag and stuff like that. It's still demonetized. I can't hear back from YouTube about it. So, but we have some plans. It's always fun to do the mob topics because it's almost a little bit more whimsical with the music choice. Let me see. So the question on screen right now: do you all have plans covering female historical war figures such as Boudica or the Trung sisters? I can't say anymore, but maybe
You're getting close.
Stop getting so close. Any
Uh,
plans to do more African topics? Yes, we actually do have. We have a big list of prospective topics, and if you're part of the Patreon, you'll know this. Like, I'll occasionally, for like the $6 and up tier, I'll put out a poll asking what they would want us to cover next, and honor the results of that. That's how we did the India one. I think we did the Haida one on that too. But normally, what I do is like I'll give like 5 general regions of the world and maybe like a rough timeline. So it'll be like, oh, India pre 1500 and American West pre 1800 or something like that. And so,
yeah. So our patrons actually decide quite a few of our topics for us.
Yeah, and so the African topics, because the Africa one's on there a lot, and we've done it before, but we have topics ready to go for most of the regions, because we look into something that would grab us if the patrons decide that, but not every topic is decided by the patrons. Um, the next one that we're doing is not, but a fair amount of them are. Let me see. Just scroll down, catch up here. You and Voices of the Past, the two best history channels on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, we did a collab last summer, in the sense that I wrote a very long script for Voices of the Past on. It's called the entire history of Western piracy, and funny enough, that also got demonetized. I thought it was a great video. He really liked it too, David from Voices of the Past. But yeah, I mean, you have to go on the channel to go find it, but go show that some love too. It turned out really nice. It got demonetized and they didn't tell him why. Would you ever make a video or videos about prohibition and American organized crime during that time period? Yeah, so we touched on that with the Meyer Lansky one. And Meyer Lansky was fun because it kind of like spanned a lot of the history of the mob, from like their rise during Prohibition, the mob and the mafia, but also including sort of like the mob's ties to Cuba and stuff like that. But Joe, I would say we'll definitely be going back there at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Those are always the funnest to edit.
Yeah,
You can get a
those.
little more wacky with the editing choices, like the hard cut and music. You can make it a little more cinematic, and it's not. Well, I'm not saying I don't like these kind of heavier topics like war, battle, etc. But sometimes you feel like you're banging the same drum, and then you get to do like kind of a mob story, and it just kind of makes it. It's kind of like a nice break from the carnage and bloodshed of a lot of our topics.
Yeah. We have another question here from Abyss, asking how we got started, with the beautiful art and background that we have that put out such a high quality. Yeah, I talked a little bit about it in the last Q&A, but I was a history major at Cornell, did an undergraduate thesis, an honors thesis there. Joe was an English major, but he just happened to be a very good artist as well. The initial idea, if you kind of go back through our catalog, you'll notice like less and less art in each video, and that's because it started out as almost like informational, like fun facts that you can share with other people. And then I think more and more, it might have started with like the Beast of Gévaudan one, but the more and more story focused we got, and I think with the Stilicho one too, we noticed like we really liked doing those. We thought we were sort of hitting our stride in terms of our own skill sets, and we had a really good response to those. So Joe became a little bit quicker at painting, and we kind of figured out a system on how to like make this sustainable and stuff. Not that we're terribly fast at making videos, but you know how it goes. I don't know if I can pronounce that name. Sveniskis Demersis. Hello, sirs. I emailed you a while ago. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if we saw that. Would you guys ever do an American Revolution video? Yeah.
Just talking about it, I think.
Yeah. We have one possibly planned. And maybe we'd do some on location work there too. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun doing sort of like 1700s, 1800s style. And I feel like a lot of Joe's art fits with that too. Sort of almost like romantic era landscape painting. And I think that could be really cool with the American Revolution. So we saw a little bit of that with our dueling video, our pistol dueling one. We go through a couple of these. I think that. Do you think the quality you produce is sustainable? Here are a fair few YouTubers who get burnt out constantly trying to improve themselves. I mean, that's a pretty good point, but you know, the thing with Joe and I is it's not necessarily like each video we're thinking needs to be way better than the last one. It's just I think we have like a pretty good filter on what we don't like. So, you know, even if we weren't posting as much, if we were super big and we didn't really need to post, we would just really take our time like trying to get stuff right, and we'll never put out a video that we hate or we think the graphics are dumb or something like that.
Yeah, and from an artistic standpoint, it always happens every time to me. I always think like once we get done with one topic, I always think, okay, wow, I just put all this time and energy into this one, trying to figure out the music, trying to figure out the tone, etc., what the art's going to look like. How can I now jump, I don't know, 1,000 years earlier and do the same thing with something wildly different? But it always, for whatever reason, the creative muses always capture me, and I can usually just kind of switch right into it, and it's always fun. And I'm sure it's fun for Chris too, from a research standpoint, just exploring a different world, even if we're going from the mafia to ancient India. It's always fun to do that switch and try to figure it all out and how you're going to recreate it in an immersive fashion.
Yeah, and it's history is an endless well. You know, we could do it. We could cover the same topic, or basically, you could go back to ancient Rome and just have an entire channel on ancient Rome. And there are channels like that. Or you know, you can sort of go back to the same time period and continue to find really compelling stories. And we're at even a greater advantage because we sort of purposely make the channel very varied in its scope. So I don't want it to feel limited, like, you know, we stick to American history, or we just stick to European or whatever region or whatever time period. I want to be able to you know, I get fear of missing out with history. So like if I'm studying about something and I know a lot about this war, there's a part of me that's thinking, well, actually, I don't know enough about Southwest Native Americans or something. So I'll study more on that. Let me go through a couple other ones. I can scroll up too. So if I answered a question that that came after you, don't worry. I might still get back to yours. Sami Techie, I wish you guys would upload often because you do a fantastic job. Thank you. I think we're going to try to have some months where we do 2 a month. Sometimes it's just hard. Again, we were like away for Yellowstone and stuff. But we're gonna continue, and you know, those months where we have 2 will actually probably be like shorter videos. But we do like taking a pause sometimes and making sure we get it really right, and you know, put out like a near 20-minute video some of the time. But I don't really plan it out. If there's, you know, if a story takes longer to tell, I'll tell it that way. Would you ever do a video about the Mexican Revolution? Yeah, I was also just talking about that with somebody from Mexico. I think the Mexican Revolution is very super interesting, and you know, I also speak Spanish, but it's gotten rustier lately. But the pronunciations wouldn't be bad. So yeah. Okay, so again, if you guys have any questions about the trip, feel free to keep asking those, or questions about filling out that survey. We would really appreciate if you guys could fill out that survey. Thank you, Strat, for stopping by. Strat's question is no question. He looks forward to the next video.
Thanks, Strat.
Dakota loves the channel. Easily my favorite history channel. Thank you. The visuals are striking. I love how you focus on topics that I usually haven't heard much about.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's part of the goal, is not necessarily to approach those less covered subjects in sort of I think that there are some people that can approach them almost in a patronizing way, that like we're trying to pay homage to this group or something like that. But almost in a way that like our own curiosity should bring us to not want to focus on the same war the entire time. Um, but yeah, I mean, of course, we need the experts to be able to just focus on those things and to dig out that research and stuff like that. But I do feel like as a consumer of history, we should continue having that thirst to go learn about the things that we didn't learn about growing up, or basically just the things that lie outside of your immediate scope of vision. Okay. So I think we could probably go for a couple more minutes. So if you guys have any pressing questions, put them in now. Appreciate any super chats and stuff. Let's see. Anton says, love y'all stuff. Have you ever thought about doing super early Roman history? The art would be insane. It's a period I can't imagine right now. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I can't say I've thought about it, but I'm thinking about it right now. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I think we actually, after the Gupta one, I sort of realized we hadn't done something ancient in a long time. We're sticking as far back as we had gone in a while, was like Viking era stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think I liked making the tone of the Gupta one. It's sometimes a little bit harder to depict ancient ones, and there's going to be fewer sources and stuff, but it's really interesting, and I feel like I like writing in the style that sort of elevates it and sort of like an ancient, almost folkloric sense. Let's see. So yeah, I've seen this message a bunch. Rajput clans of India. Yeah, I just know, like I said to Rich Mitch, concerning his Chinese history suggestion. I just know we'll go back to India at some point and cover some more of those topics. And so even if you can't necessarily expect a video title out that's the entire history of Rajput clans, at some point we'll probably touch on it in some capacity. Let's do. You could do an episode on the Paris Commune. Hardly ever see historical channels talking about that lesser known revolt and its aftermath. Yeah, that would be really interesting. In a way, kind of a spiritual successor to a little bit of one aspect of the Dumas episode. Danny asked, would you ever consider telling the story of Admiral Horatio Nelson? Yeah, that could be really cool. A lot of times what happens with us is we'll find a subject and we will find like either a movie we already watched, or we'll go and watch a movie that is tangentially or sort of like related in the way that it has a similar ambiance or something. And sometimes look up like screen grabs from video games or movies or something. So doing a video like that maybe is related to like I like the movie Master and Commander. We watched that a while back. I feel like a lot of the cinematography, the stormy seas and stuff could be really cool to incorporate just from like sound effects and stuff. I mean, I think Joe, you said the most fun you had doing the art was Henry Every, right?
Yeah, that was just because I felt like it felt adventurous to do that type of art. Even though it does get kind of grim and dark, there's like part of you that is almost like this childlike fondness of kind of that sense of adventure, that pirate adventure. And with regards to like aesthetic inspiration, a couple of people will even point it out in the comments and stuff, like the Harold Hardrada saga. People say felt like the Northmen. Well, that was like one of the key aesthetic inspirations for the video was Robert Eggers' The Northman, or even the pistol dueling video. Chris and I watched Barry Lyndon because we wanted to give it that kind of regal tone, kind of that what would you say, kind of romantic era feel to it.
Yeah, almost. Well, it's like enlightenment, but it's kind of like that transition between like early modern and modern, and it's like you still have people. There's like a beauty in the way that people dress and an elegance in the way that there's like with Barry Lyndon, like the composition of shots and stuff like that. Um, and then it always has that element of like, people are sort of as barbaric as they were beforehand and after. So let's do maybe we'll go to like 6:50. So we'll do like 4 more minutes. Thank you guys for all the comments. Jeffrey Pack, good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. I am. Are you considering studying revolutions in Latin America in the future? Thank you. Yeah, a lot of what I did in college was Latin American history. I did an undergraduate thesis on slavery in Cuba and the revolutions related to that. I'm very, very interested in the age of revolutions and sort of how those ideas come about. And what I talked a little bit about in my thesis was how those ideas sort of paradoxically came up at the same time that we had like the increase of slave states and sort of racial and class oppression and things like that. But yeah, I was just talking the other day about the revolutions in Latin America because I feel like they aren't covered that much, but it is crazy to think, you have like an entire southern part of a hemisphere of the world that basically gets its own independence within like 10, 15 years. Or I think precisely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, about 15 years, like 1810 to 1825. And so that would be really, really cool to do. I think we could probably even do like a multi-part series on that. And it would be cool because I think in popular culture it's not appreciated enough how significant those events are. They are appreciated if you actually go to Latin America. You'll see the statues and the people on the currency and stuff like that. But there's sort of a blind spot, I think, for a lot of people on that. We ever do videos on conquerors like Alex the Great or Genghis Khan? Well, we do have. I think we actually only have one video on Genghis Khan. I think the Khwarezmian one. Yeah, what we've thought about is we're sort of on a path with the Mongols right now that is chronologically moving to the Mamluks next. But we've thought about at some point going back and just sort of like starting at the start of the Mongol Empire because we picked a date in there, but we didn't really cover in depth the rise of the Mongols. I never know if you guys are getting sick of the Mongols, but I just know I like learning about the Mongols, and we get a fair amount of requests to go back there.
And Alexander the Great has been something Chris and I have talked about for a few years now. Seems like one of those insurmountable topics because there would be so much you'd want to include, but when we do make a video on him, it's going to be a very long one.
Yeah. Genghis Khan is not sick of the Mongols. Oh, thank you. Okay. Let's just take maybe one or two more questions and we'll wrap this up. Thank you guys for joining today. Just got a lot of like positive Mongol comments. Yes, you guys are not sick of the Mongols. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't know, it's almost like a trademark aspect of the channel. You're going to get some horrific actions on the part of the Mongols and drum beats and stuff like that.
Oh, there's one on the face paintings. which is kind of something
Oh yeah.
that Chris and I were kind of working on recently as well, because there's certain figures who we have maybe statues and some brief historical descriptions of that we can piece together.
Yeah. So, how close are the face drawings to the real people? It really, really depends on the era and how much information we have. What I can say is that we're going to make it as informed as we possibly can. So, with something like Dumas, like the Thomas Alexander Dumas video, um, we there were a few like later in life portraits of him that we were able to base it off, and there was a much later sculpture of him um, that was actually
Yeah.
dismantled by the Nazis during the German occupation of France. Um,
The
but
Gupta Empire one was a little more difficult, but we could make out that Samudragupta would have possibly been wearing some type of cap, and
yeah,
then some jewelry as well, Alcon Huns, the elongated skull, etc.
yeah. So we're gonna make it as informed as we possibly can. You know, as far as the actual like facial proportions and stuff like that. A lot of that sometimes will depend on how well known or how much surviving evidence we have. So, like the pistol dueling one, we had like some vague descriptions of what those people look like, and we a lot of times have their age, um, but none of those people were famous. Henry Hockey wasn't famous.
Yeah,
You know, I think the only one that there was a depiction of was the I think Private Pym, his friend. There was a depiction in a newspaper, so we used that for a little bit of him. But for some of those, you kind of have to go
yeah.
based on what you have to work
And
with.
to
That
give
was a good question.
a little hint, there are like some figures in Roman history where people debate whether or not they had blonde hair or perhaps a more ginger type of hair. Um, what type of
Yeah,
beard they had, whether it's a neck beard or just a normal beard. So
yeah. So, uh, you know, sometimes more the well covered topics you're going to be able to get a little bit more information. Okay, so let's do maybe this and then one more. Even though you're a historical channel, can you see yourself maybe touching on mythological stories? Yeah, we've talked about that, Joe.
yeah, the Egyptian afterlife is one that we've thought about, and a more modern example is touching on something like Tolkien and his work, and how much of that is informed by maybe. I know he didn't. What was it? He didn't like analogy, I believe, right? Wasn't that the thing he kind of didn't?
Allegory.
Yeah, allegory. Yeah, but maybe looking at the historical circumstances in which Middle Earth came about.
Yeah, and I think you can look up Joseph Feely's art on ArtStation. You'll see that he's done a fair amount of like fantasy painting, um,
Yeah, and who
and
knows? Maybe
so
we'll
that
go
could be a
to
fun way.
maybe we'll go to New Zealand with some of you guys too on a Trova trip.
Yeah, yeah, you got to fill out that survey, people. Okay, so let's do the last one. Have you thought about doing the Haitian Revolution? Yeah, yeah, I've really thought about doing that. As I said, my thesis in college, my undergraduate honors thesis was on the basically focused on slavery in Cuba, but the revolts against the colonial order there, and so heavily related to that was the Haitian Revolution, and sort of like an example of a successful, relatively nearby slave revolt. So I'd love to do the Haitian Revolution at some point. Um, okay, well, thank you guys so much. I want to, if you guys can do me a favor, again, we need to get to 50. Um, we need to get to 50 people to fill out the Trova trip survey in order for us to move forward with making this trip a reality. So if you're at all interested in joining us on a trip to another country, it'll be focused on um, history. So, you know, if we're going to Egypt, we're probably going to be looking at like the Temple of Karnak, pyramids, obviously, Sphinx. different tombs. But if you're going to ancient Greece, or we have a ton of votes for Turkey, you're going to see sites that are from like those classical civilizations. So I'll put the survey in the chat one more time
And it's going
if
to be
you
in the
guys are
description
interested.
too. So
Yep, and it takes 2 minutes to fill out. Thank you guys for joining, and be on
even
the
if
lookout for
you
the next video.
even if you can't make the trip, just you can also help us figure out where we're going to go, which would determine what type of content we're going to cover in the future. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you
all right,
guys.
see you everyone.
Have a good one. Bye.